Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished talking about some of my favorite signings so far of the NBA free agency that's been going on for about 24 hours. We talked about Chris Paul joining the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. That's going to be an awesome duo to watch this season, how he's able to play with a budding young superstar in Wemby. We talked about KCP joining the young Orlando Magic, that defensive ability as well as his shooting, which is desperately needed down there in Orlando, is going to be a huge get for them. But and then we also talked about Paul George getting his massive max extension with the 76ers leading the Clippers, who we're going to talk about here in this segment. We'll talk about how they can rebound after losing a guy like Paul George. And then we also talked about Klay Thompson moving on to Dallas and joining Luka, Kyrie, and the defending Western Conference champions. Like I said, we are going to talk about the Clippers here in this segment, but before we get into that, remember that but if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you have to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get into some Clippers here, because the Clippers have a very interesting free agency situation, right? They could have brought Paul George back, and instead they let him walk. Obviously, the reason they say they let him walk is because the second apron, they're scared of it, which is a good thing. I think the second apron is a great thing to have been added to the NBA. It helps the small market teams not just get bought out like that. But the Clippers had to make some tough decisions, and the second apron was kind of devised around a team like the Clippers. So, they're starting to feel the consequences there. They do make a decision that I don't quite understand, and they kind of chose James Harden over Paul George. They give James Harden a big 2-year, $70 million extension. And I know that's not a max contract, but still, giving a guy like James Harden a massive contract like that, he's making 23% of the cap space right there. $33 million a year. He's 35 years old. You still have Kawhi Leonard. He's obviously the face of this team. You bring in Derrick Jones Jr. to kind of be that Paul George replacement, and same thing with Nick Batum. Those two combined will probably be what that Paul George replacement is going to be. But rumor has it they're looking at trading Russell Westbrook. They're looking at moving on from him. You now take away a guy like Paul George from that team, and you're kind of left motionless, right? You're too old to have a great future with this core. This is a clearly declining core, but they're also too old to really blow it up to get too many assets. And this is not a team that is in a position to blow it up. They're just moved into a new arena. They want to be competitive. They want to bring They want to bring a championship to LA. They don't want to be those little brothers anymore after, years and years and years of clearly being the little brother. And they still kind of are to the Lakers, but they want to make a big statement. And it kind of is shocking to me why they chose a guy like James Harden over Paul George. And this is nothing against James Harden. I just think Paul George is going to age better than James Harden. We've already kind of seen James Harden fall off the cliff a little bit. His passing has improved, but his shooting has gone down the drain a little bit. He's not the same guy that gave you 30 points a night, 35 points a night in Houston. But you have Kawhi, who's hurt all the time. And if he can stay on the court, this team is competitive. But there's no way you can sit there and rely on a guy like Kawhi Leonard to stay on the court after everything that's gone on, right? This is a team that that doesn't really have any cap room. It doesn't really have any ability to go out and get someone on this because they don't really have any ability to go out and get a big free agent. Now they've made a couple small moves. Like I said, they brought in Derrick Jones Jr. That's a move that I really do like. His defense is going to play a big part of that. They also bring in Nicholas Batum. He comes back to LA after spending a couple seasons in Philly. It's an interesting signing there, and it's not something that I think is going to matter too much. He's not making a huge contract; it's a $4 million a year contract, so it's not like really anything too much. But this is a really old team. You know, you your youngest player is Zubac and Derrick Jones Jr., who are both 27 right now, aside from draft picks that they made. They do sign Kevin Porter Jr., which is its own mess in itself, right? He's not that great of a player, and he has his off-the-court issues, which I don't know what the Clippers are doing there. I would have left him off the team, but they decide to sign him. That's whatever there. The Clippers kind of feel directionless, right? And the question that I've posed here is, where do the Clippers go from here? There's really no clear answer, right? This is a Clippers team that wants to compete. This is a Clippers team that wants to be good. And this is a Clippers team that's going to hold on to that for as long as they possibly can. This Clippers team doesn't want to be that little brother, doesn't want to be the laughing stock of the league, right? And they've been successful, relatively successful, a solid team for, the last 12-ish, 13 years, 15 years. This is a team that's been good consistently, but they haven't really been able to get over that hump. They made it to a conference finals one time, but they haven't really been able to make that next step. They've never made a finals, even with these great players that they've had on their roster, even with these great opportunities that they've been presented with. And now it kind of comes to a point where it's falling apart. You don't have that many assets to go and make a trade, right? You are running on fumes. Your guys are 35, 36, older, 37. They're not the same as they were in their prime. They're not able to stay healthy as much, and they're not able to propel your team to success. This Clippers team isn't in a position where it can really blow it up. Like I said, they're opening a new arena. You don't want to open a new arena with a bad team. You want to build, confidence, build success in a new arena, and you don't want to blow it up the same time that you're moving into a new place. So they kind of have their hands tied. They're kind of just going to let time take its toll, and that's really what it seems. That's really how it seems like they're going about it right now, and it's a shame because this Clippers team had so much potential. They go out and they get Kawhi after his finals run, and he has just been unable to stay healthy. They pair up Paul George with him. They bring in James Harden last season, and it seemed like they were finally turning a corner, but then Kawhi gets hurt in the first round. James Harden reverts to playoff James Harden. Russell Westbrook hasn't been the same since he joined the Lakers, right? This is just a team that doesn't have a lot of options. And it's kind of like a corpse we're just watching, a corpse we're watching slowly wither away. And that's not really, where you want to be as a basketball team. But Clippers don't really have too many options left. They made a trade that really hurt them in getting Paul George. We were talking about it in our meeting today, whether or not that was the worst trade of the recent era. I don't know if it really was, but giving up prospects like Shea and a whole bunch of picks, clearly they lost that trade there, and, you'll have to sacrifice short-term for long-term sometimes, but it's part of the life cycle of the NBA. You're going to be good. You're going to be great. You're going to be good. You're going to be bad. Right. And if you can stave off that by making savvy moves, savvy trades, great draft picks, you can avoid it. But it seems like the Clippers are at the end of their rope. And it's a shame to see some of these guys go out the way they're going out. And that's not to say that the Clippers are going to be bad this season, because the Clippers still have a guy in Kawhi Leonard who's really good if he can stay on the court. But it's just, he hasn't been able to stay on the court. And I don't believe in a James Harden-led team in 2024, 2025. It doesn't inspire me. And I feel like letting Paul George walk was a mistake. I feel like I would have preferred they let James Harden go. But that's just me. There are a lot of other ways that they can go about this. Maybe some of their rookies are going to turn out and surprise everybody. This is that kind of draft. We have no idea what's going to happen. But we are going to close out. Let me know what you think of the Clippers. Where do they go from here? What kind of situation are they in? I think they're kind of directionless right now, and they'll try one more season to succeed. And after it inevitably doesn't work, they'll probably call it quits. But anyway, we're going to move on, close off our show today, talking a little bit about a trade that happened right before free agency between the Hawks and the Pelicans. We'll talk about who won that trade, everything surrounding it, and the whole discussion of where the Hawks and the Pelicans stand now. So stick around for that. We will be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.